Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Pavan Penke. I'm currently working as a lead protection engineer at GE Grid Solutions. I'm volunteering as a section chair for IEEE Palu section, and also I'm involved with the IEEE Power and Energy Society Young Professionals Professional Educational Activities Subcommittee. So we are hosting this grid game event today. Thanks for everyone to join this. So let's get started. So I'm going to introduce our guest speaker firstly. So we have Timothy R. McJunkin. He is a distinguished researcher at Idaho National Laboratory in Idaho Falls, US. Timothy McJunkin he has been with INL since 1999. Tim serves as a technical director of cross-cutting net zero microgrid program at INL. His current research and development areas include resilient control of critical infrastructure, net zero microgrids, and cybersecurity. He has published 20 plus peer-reviewed journal articles, 4 book chapters, and been awarded 13 patents. Prior to joining INL, he was with Compaq Computers Corporation India Standard Server Group, leading board-level motherboard design of multiple server products. He holds a Master of Science in Electrical and Computer Engineering from Utah State University and is pursuing his PhD in the University of Idaho's Electrical Engineering Department. At Utah State, he has awarded a Rocky Mountain NASA Space Grant Consortium Fellowship for his work on autonomous planetary vehicles. He has served an adjunct professor for Idaho State University Electrical Engineering Department and co-developed a course in resilient control systems with the University of Idaho and other institutions across the US. He developed the grid game to provide a hands-on tool for the course and other education-focused events. Thank you, Tim, for joining us. So here is a quick agenda and some action points. So the event will commence with a brief presentation from our guest speaker, followed by an initial round of the grid game, which will last for 30 minutes. So then we will have a final round, which will also be a 30-minute round after that. So the initial round will give you a hands-on experience on how to play with this grid game. So, and also a couple of action points here to ensure optimal connectivity. Please mute your microphones and turn off your video during the event. And please feel free to utilize the chat option if you have any questions or if you need any assistance with the game and all. We have a few of our co-hosts here who will be able to help you during the game. So, and also if you need a participation certificate, we kindly request you to post your game username and a full name and an email ID in the chat box here. We'll collect that as an attendance. And also the event is recorded on Zoom. Okay, and with that, I'll hand it over to Tim.
Thank you, Pavan, for the kind introduction and also your bravery at hosting this event with the grid game. It looks like we have a little bit smaller crowd than maybe we expected, so this is maybe a good thing. I know we had about 70 people register for this, and I don't think we've ever run a grid game event with more than about 20. So when Pavan told me the number of registrations, I was up for the experiment, but I think the folks that are here online will hopefully have a good experience. I'm going to share my screen. I was thinking about doing this without slides, but the slides will kind of remind me of all the people I need to kind of acknowledge. The grid game has been a labor of love. It hasn't been a funded activity, so it kind of is what it is. But it is kind of a rich environment for you all to get kind of an experience. And maybe this is an opportunity for me to recruit some folks to take this to the next step. There's been a little bit of a resurgence in interest about the game, and including this event in Pavan. Thank you. So hopefully I'm sharing my screen now. How does that look, Pavan?
Yes, it looks great. Yeah.
Okay, great. So again, welcome everybody. This game started off as an element of a class that Brian Johnson, who's on today, Craig Rieger, and a host of other folks at Idaho National Laboratory and across the Idaho universities were putting together in the topic of resilient control systems. And resilient control systems to us is is an idea. It's being brought forward under taking critical infrastructure. How do we make these systems more resilient? And the three legs that that the community that really Craig Rieger, now retired but still wanting to instigate in this space, stood up was, the control system one. Secondly, cybersecurity, and third, the human in a loop. So, what are the human factors that are required to make a system, work better? Sometimes the human is in the position to make a system more resilient. Sometimes they're in a position to make the system more fragile. So paying attention to that human is really key. So we put together this class, and we wanted a tool to let the students experience a control system, experience possibly cyber attacks, experience what it takes to be in command of these systems. And so I started off like making this. We started off Lawrence Beatty, the university, put together something we were hoping would be a microgrid in a box. It turned into a microgrid on a wall. It turns out getting things into a compact state that would be something that could be shared amongst the students and actually have the characteristics of a microgrid was more difficult than we thought. So this simple attempt was to create a simulator that put the swing equation, the thing that reflects the balance in power generation and load and loss with the frequency of the grid at the heart of a simulation. Along the way, another person that was involved at the time, Michael Gurian, said, "Hey, could you make that into a game?" And so, yeah, why not? We can do that. So the grid game became into existence with the idea of players earning points, competing against each other to see how well they could they could manage their grid, allow them to grow the grid. And so, some people didn't like the idea of a game, so we have a longer title. The idea of the game is making a way to explore what a microgrid is, what the grid is, in a fun way. Put it at the center of a course. Put it at the center of this. So here we go. This is the first event. I wished I had all of you in the same room today. This was extremely fun. Michael Gurian standing behind me, and some competitors in a Denver Resilience Week event. You can kind of see there's actually some intensity on these folks' face as they took this on. So hopefully we'll get some of that same reaction from this team. So the game is is inspired by making a microgrid, but this is Idaho Falls. Overview of Idaho Falls and some of the pieces of our grid. Idaho Falls has an ongoing effort to try to turn some critical resources in the city, critical services, into a microgrid. We happen to have kind of a single point of failure in the grid. This dot down here is on top of Pacific Core Rocky Mountain Power substation. The town is called Goshen. The substation is called Goshen. And there's actually another line that I didn't put on this that runs up to this other side of town. So when something, untoward happens at this substation, Idaho Falls and the space beyond Idaho Falls in that area of Rocky Mountain Power has an issue. So we would like to make that become a microgrid. So the game actually uses feeds from the hydroelectric plants. So we happen to have 4 hydroelectric plants along the Snake River. We're fortunate to have the Snake River running through our community, and we're even more fortunate that this city has invested in that for the greater part of 100 years. So with that resource, Idaho Falls Power asks, can we turn that into something that will provide our community with resilience when things happen? Somebody plans a maintenance event at Goshen on the coldest day of the year. That happened. It went wrong, and we had a situation where people were literally in the dark, in the cold. So that's inspired them to ask those questions. I'm not directly involved with this project, but Idaho Falls Power has worked with INL to do an experiment to show, could we black start portions of Idaho Falls with our hydroelectric resource. It turns out that with just the hydroelectric resource, it's a run of the river. It doesn't have as much control as we would like. That you really need to pair that with a battery storage or a supercapacitor. In our case, that's what they did, and they proved that they could step up loads and do that in a stable manner. So we're looking forward to the future of this in Idaho Falls. So those days when something goes wrong, we're in a good position. So hopefully you've all found the Grid Game site. This game's made freely available. Hopefully y'all were successful in installing it and getting it to run. We recognize that the game has some challenges with getting people installing it. Nobody wants to install something, so we'd really like to turn this into something that would be easier to install. So maybe someday when I retire from INL or I find some help, we'll get out of kind of this LabVIEW hell. I'm sorry. That's kind of hopefully you're in good shape, but I know there's some hurdles to get over that. Anyways, I'm not going to talk too much about this. This is inspired to do edutainment, create a interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary environment where we can bring people together to learn something about the grid, learn something about what it takes to run it. So simple explanation of what the game is. We have various types of generation, 2 types actually. The hydroelectric plants in Idaho Falls inspire part of that. The wind generation, we happen to have a data set from Idaho Falls Power to know what the generation was over a year, and also understand what the load was across a year. And that's what's driving the game. To give a controllable element, I added a battery storage system and gave the ability for the user to have a feedback control loop to manage that that frequency of the grid at what we expect in the US of a 60 hertz grid. So 60 hertz grid. And so we gave the users a chance to play with gains and see what it would take to kind of control the grid in a stable way. Turns out the swing equation in its linearized form is a two-pole system. So if you're a control systems person, you kind of know what the what that reflects. It's pretty hard to drive unstable. And a lot of players ended up learning that they could just drive that gain really high and it would be fine. So I ended up adding another element to the control system for that storage so that we have a 3-pole system and it's possible to drive the system unstable. So anyways, feedback loop, measure the frequency, compare it to what it's supposed to be, multiply that error and use that as the input to our control system. We added some complexity and made it into a PID controller. So take the integral of the error and give it the K. So you'll see in the game the ability to play with those gains. You can determine what's best for your system in a short game. You don't have to do too much probably, but really give the players a opportunity to kind of expose them to a control system and what these different gains might do to the stability of the system. Okay, so just what's in the game now. It's a pretty rich environment. It has these different types of generation, gives you the ability to grow your grid. There's a lot more you could do with this, but it turns out I think you're going to find it has enough. And so now along the line, I think Craig inspired me to say, hey, we need to do cyber attacks. Well, I don't have enough imagination to think like a hacker. So we employed some students for free. They volunteered at Colorado State University. And they stood up the web interface that has the scoreboard and also has some other fun things. So the Hashdump Cybersecurity Club took on a summer project with me to put this together. And that's what you'll see today. I'm going to kick through these things and just get to my credits. So I'm sure I left somebody off this list. Here's the group of people that I was happy to work with, continue to be happy to work with many of them. So the Hashdump Computer Security Club at Colorado State, without them, we wouldn't have a scoreboard. So something that would inspire you to compete with each other and have a bit of fun. Brian Johnson, Craig, a team of multidisciplinary folks in the resilient control systems community put this course on the map. It's still being taught at the University of Idaho on every other year. Idaho Falls Power, Jackie, the previous director now at Tacoma Power, made some data available to us and inspired this to kind of look like Idaho Falls. Temple University, so the most creative use of the game. Onshore Reggae, a criminal justice. Yeah, I need to learn to spell. It's an old presentation, still got it wrong. So she decided that this game, when she saw that initial event at Resilience Week, could be used to give her classes in criminal justice. She's a sociologist, teaches courses in cybercrime, and found a way to use this game. She sought me out, says, I'm going to use that game. And about a year later, we eventually got it going. Mike Gurian for inspiring this to become a game and giving me the initial sandbox to have a server for this game. It's now become, it's gone away, but Mike's still at the heart of this thing. The university professors that have done things, John Gardner, Andrew Ray at CSU for recruiting those students, some colleagues in human factors and cognitive psychology that continue to inspire me today to push that piece of so important. Like the technology isn't always the hurdle, right? It's getting people to understand it and use it and understand how they should use it. So these colleagues of mine are really trying to drive that into the space, get us over the pieces of that. So with that, I'm gonna get through this so we can have some fun, hopefully. So renewed interest, MIT, Purdue, some other activities that we've done across the years. You can pick off the papers that we've published on topic of the grid game. Hopefully there'll be more. Hopefully we'll find some time to turn this game into even more. Some fun stuff. We'll see if we get any new quotes today. And finally, my now former addiction to playing Candy Crush. Hopefully we find a more addictive, useful game in something like the grid game or other tools. And with that, I'm going to just turn this over to Pavan. There's now a book for that class. If y'all want to look more into this area of resilient control systems, this is a starting point to get you towards the literature. And with that, I'm gonna stop and let Pavan take this over, and wish you all luck in the game event today. Thank you for your time. Appreciate you showing up for this, and thank you, Pavan.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks for taking your time. I'm gonna stop the recording for now, and